tasyaiva cānte kalpo abhūt yam pādmam abhicakṣate yad dharer nābhi-sarasa āsīl loka-saroruham tasyaiva āsīl loka-saroruham. Devotees.
Tasyaiva cānte kalpo bhūd pādmam abhicakṣate dharer nābhi-sarasa āsīl loka-saroruham. Tasyaiva cānte kalpo bhūd yam pādmam abhicakṣate dharer nābhi-sarasa āsīl loka-saroruham.
tasyaiva cānte kalpo bhūd yam pādmam abhicakṣate dharer nābhi-sarasa āsīl loka-saroruham.
kalpo bhūd yam pādmam abhicakṣate dharer nābhi-sarasa āsīl loka-saroruham.
Matas?
Tasyaiva cānte kalpo bhūd yam pādmam abhicakṣate dharer nābhi-sarasa āsīl loka-saroruham.
Please repeat after me. Tasya of the Brāhma-kalpa, eva, certainly, cha, also, ante, at the end of, kalpa, millennium, abhūt, came into existence, yam, which, pādmam, Padma, abhicakṣate, is called, yat, in which, hareḥ, of the Personality of Godhead, nābhi, in the navel, sarasaḥ, from the reservoir of water, āsīt, there was, loka, of the universe, cāroruham, lotus. Translation: the millennium which followed the first Brahma millennium is known as Pādma-kalpa because in that millennium the universal lotus flower grew out of the navel reservoir of water of the Personality of Godhead, Hari. Please repeat. The millennium which followed the first Brahma millennium is known as the Pādma-kalpa because in that millennium the universal lotus flower grew out of the navel reservoir of water of the Personality of Godhead, Hari. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The millennium following the Brāhma-kalpa is known as Pādma-kalpa because the universal lotus flower grows in that millennium. The Pādma-kalpa is also called the Pitṛ-kalpa in certain Purāṇas. So Pitṛ is referring to the forefathers like Pitṛ-kalpa. And also Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has also written his commentary on this verses also. It says, O Vidura, translation, O Vidura. This is for 37. So then also we'll be reading 37 as well. So first I want to cover the first part. Actually, did somebody do 33 36 yesterday. I was supposed to do 37 and 38. Okay, well, I'll read 37. Oh. Ayam tu katita kalpa dvitiyasyapi bharata varaha iti vikyalayato yatra sichtinchukaro harihi. O descendant of Bharata, the first millennium and the second half of the life of Brahma is also known as the Varaha millennium, because the personality of Godhead appeared in that millennium as the hog incarnation. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The different millenniums known as the Brahma, Padma, and Varaha-kalpas appear a little puzzling for the layman. There are some scholars who think these kalpas to be one and the same, and according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the Brāhma-kalpa in the beginning of the first half appears to be the Pādma-kalpa. We can, however, simply abide by the text and understand that the present millennium is in the second half of the duration of the life of Brahma. So then it's mentioned by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his purport on this verse. It says, Overdura translation, the first day of the second half of Brahma's life is called Varaha-kalpa, during which Varaha appeared. And also it's mentioned that, too, we're in the Swaita Varaha-kalpa, because when you do this, the sun kalpa, it mentions Swaita Varaha-kalpa. So when you do this, like in the marriage ceremony, you're going to hear that as well, when you do a sun kalpa. Okay, purport. This verse describes the first day in the 51st year of Brahma and the second half of his life. The Pādma-kalpa, the present day, is described in verses such as Pādmam kalpam ato shrinu, Bhagavatam 2:10-47. And the verses after Upaplutam Vishvamidam, Bhagavatam 3:8-10, with a description of a lotus in the ocean of water. The appearance of one Brahma with no one else present is described in the Lokya-tatranyad Apashyam Manaha, Bhagavatam 10.9.7. Thus Brahma did not see Sanaka and the others who live for the whole Brahma's life. So Brahma's life is 311 trillion, 40 billion years. It's very hard to comprehend that span of time. That's his life. So half of it's over. Then you can just go 311 trillion, 40 billion divided by half. It's very, very great numbers indeed. Okay, it says, because of these verses, some have another explanation of the Pādma-kalpa. So that's what Prabhupada was saying here about that there's other opinions. So it says, they say that Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka, the four, which remain without being destroyed until the end of the second half of Brahma's life, becomes covered with water at the end of the first half of Brahma's life. Thus no planets or the great sages are visible to Brahma on the first day of his 51st year. Those who live till the end of Brahma's life on those planets enter into Narayan along with Brahma during the night at the end of the first half of Brahma's life. They say that the first day in the second half of Brahma's life, when he appears on a lotus and sees no planets and no sages, is called Swaita Varaha or Pādma-kalpa. As well, in the second chapter, it will be explained that Sanakan, Marichi, and others appeared from Brahma. This is similar to the Brāhma-kalpa. That day cannot be called Brāhma-kalpa since it comes after this description of the Pādma-kalpa. In verse 36 of this chapter, describing Pādma-kalpa, the word ante can mean at the end of the first day. Thus, the second day after Brahma's birth could be called the Pādma-kalpa. I am too, in this verse, then means that the Pādma-kalpa is also a name for Varaha-kalpa, the first day in the second half of Brahma's life. It's called Varaha-kalpa because Varaha avatar appeared during that kalpa. The word api after dvitiyasya indicates that even the first kalpa of Brahma's life is called the Pādma-kalpa. This is the explanation of some persons. And then there's a note here. It says, thus, Pādma-kalpa can refer to the first day or the second day of Brahma's life, the last day of the 50th year of his life, the last day of the 50th year, or the first day of his 51st year. So there's so many different, as in Bhagavatam, sometimes you'll find either apparent contradictions or you'll find different opinions, and then the acharyas mention those different opinions. So also is that there's 30 kalpas in a day of Lord Brahma, 30 kalpas. So these kalpas are very long indeed. And it's also, there's a breakdown here I'll share with you. One day of Brahma is called kalpa kala. A kalpa is divided into 14 parts. Those are the 14 manvantaras. A manu rules one part. In other words, he rules one part of the 14. Now, it's not exactly explained, I want to keep researching this, whether it's referring to the lifespan of a manvantara, whether he rules that whole manvantara or he rules part of it and then lives longer. So that part I'm still researching because it's not specifically stated as yet, I found. Okay. There are 71 chatra yugas in each manvantara's life. Okay, so then you go 4,320,000,000, which is one day of Lord Brahma, divided by 14, then you get 308,571,428.428 years. So a man who rules for this amount of time, but the lifespan is longer. Okay, that's my note. Now, I'm doing more research on that. If anyone else finds out anything on that, that would be nice to know. Along with that, the devas who were born at the time of the Manu also come to the end of their lives. 14 such manvantaras make one day of Brahma, a kalpa. It is the end of that day that the original universe perishes, partial annihilation. Now, in other parts of Bhagavatam, it's mentioned that those four kalpas that were mentioned here, the top four, the Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka, those are the planets that all the other rishis and sages migrate to when there's a partial annihilation. So, but there was also mentioned that even those planets go underwater. So, and it might be different according to the distance. It's called beta kalpa beta. In other words, in different kalpas, there'll be different occurrences. It's also mentioned that in the different Purāṇas, each Purāṇa actually was created or first appeared in a different kalpa. So that's why sometimes you find different descriptions, like in the Vishnu Purāṇa, will give some descriptions about Krishna's life that's a little bit different than what you find in Srimad Bhagavatam. So because Srimad Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of the Vedic literature, we stick with Bhagavatam. But Vishnu Purāṇa is one of the Sattvic Purāṇas, so we also accept, but we have the priority of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So 43,200 kalpas are per Brahma's lifetime. Okay? 43,200 kalpas per Brahma's lifetime. The end of Brahma's life is called a Mahapralaya. For another lifespan of Brahma, there's nothing. So in other words, imagine that. You have it that after Brahma's life, then for 311 trillion, 40 billion years, there is nothing. So in the way you could almost say like it's the void, but it's not, because Vishnu's still there. See, his lifespan is so long that we can't comprehend that many years of nothing being there. But he's there. And then he'll start creation again, and then Brahma comes out, and the whole creation starts again. Everything is cyclical. It's not linear. It's cyclical. So this is the thing that the Vedic literature is very expert on, that the whole Vedic literature is describing things that are cyclical. Now, also, is that I wanted to share some of these from Prabhupada's lecture. Oh, wait, let me go over to the... Okay. It's Bhagavad Gita 8:17. That also gives a synopsis. From it says, Sahasra Yuga Parayantam Aharyad Brahmano Vidu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vido Janaha. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day. And such also is the duration of his night. Purport. The duration of the material universe is limited. It is manifested in cycles of kalpas. A kalpa is a day of Brahma, and one day of Brahma consists of 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. The cycle of Satya is characterized by virtue, wisdom, and religion, there being practically no ignorance and vice. And the yuga lasts 1,728,000 years. So these are all multiples of 4,327,000 years, which is the one chapter yuga, and then by there you start with Kali Yuga and then go up. So Kali Yuga 432,000 years multiplied each time by 2, by 3, by 4, and that's how you get these calculations. So it says, in the Treta Yuga, vice is introduced, and this yuga lasts 1,296,000 years. In the Dwapara Yuga, there is an even greater decline in virtue and religion, vice increasing, and this yuga lasts 864,000 years. And finally, in Kali Yuga, the yuga we now have been experiencing over the past 5,000 years, there is an abundance of strife, ignorance, irreligion, and vice, true virtue being practically non-existence, and this yuga lasts 432,000 years. In Kali Yuga, vice increases to such a point that at the termination of the yuga, the Supreme Lord himself appears as Kalki avatar. Now there's a philosophical argument about that. In ISKCON, and according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which I'm going to mention here, that he mentions, there is Kalki appears at the end of Kali Yuga, and it's specifically referring to within that day. He's called a kalpa avatar, within that day of Brahma, just like the original Lord Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago. The original Lord Chaitanya appeared also 500 years ago approximately. And then also the original Veda Vyas means an incarnation of Narayan who came as Vyasadeva. Then that's also, he comes within this kalpa, within this Mahayuga. So, in the Kali Yuga, increased to such a point the termination of the Yuga, the Supreme Lord himself appears as the Kalki avatar, vanquishes the demons, and saves his devotees and commences another Satya Yuga. So some of these other devotees are saying, in another camp, they're saying that there is no Kalki at the end of this Kali Yuga because Lord Chaitanya appeared and Kalki is included within Lord Chaitanya. But according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that's not the case, and according to Srila Prabhupada, that's not the case. So I'll read that just after I finish this purport. Then the process is set rolling again, circular. These 4 yugas rotating 1,000 times comprise one day of Brahma, and the same number comprises one night. Brahma lives 100 of such years and then dies. These 100 years, by Earth calculations, total to 311,040,000,000,000 Earth years. Excuse me. By these calculations, the life of Brahma seems fantastic and interminable, but from the viewpoint of eternity, it is as brief as a lightning flash. In the causal ocean, there are innumerable Brahmas rising and disappearing like bubbles in the Atlantic. Brahma and his creation are all part of the material universe, and therefore they are in constant flux. In the material universe, not even Brahma is free from the process of birth, old age, disease, and death. Brahma, however, is directly engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord and the management of the universe. Therefore, he at once attains liberation. Elevated sannyasis are promoted to Brahma's particular planet, Brahma-loka, which is the highest planet in the material universe and which survives all the heavenly planets in the upper strata of the planetary system. But in due course, Brahma and all the inhabitants of Brahma-loka are subject to death according to the law of material nature. Then also in text 18 it says, at the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifested state, and therefore when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again. Then verse 19 says, again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they're helplessly annihilated. Purport, the less intelligent who try to remain within this material world may be elevated to higher planets and then again come down to this planet Earth. During the daytime of Brahma, they can exhibit their activities on higher and lower planets within this material world. But at the coming of Brahma's night, they're all annihilated. In the day, they receive various bodies of material activities, and at night, they no longer have bodies, but remain compact in the body of Vishnu. Then again, they are manifest at the arrival of Brahma's day. Bhūtva paliyate, which means manifest and unmanifest, birth and annihilation. During the day, they become manifest, and at night they're annihilated. Ultimately, when Brahma's life is finished, they are all annihilated and remain unmanifest for millions and millions of years. And when Brahma is born again in another millennium, they are again manifest. In this way, they are captivated by the spell of the material world. But those intelligent persons who take the Krishna conscious use the human life fully in the devotional service of the Lord, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus, they render themselves, even in this lifetime, to the spiritual planets of Krishna, and thus become eternally blissful there, not being subject to such rebirths. So going over to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his, this is a very small writing that he did called the Bhagavatamritam Kana by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He says here, in those kalpas where there is an absence of any qualified jiva to take up the position of Lord Brahma, then Lord Vishnu himself becomes Lord Brahma. Similarly, during some manvantaras, the incarnation of the Lord as Yajna has to take up the position of Lord Indra. During that manvantara, when Yajna becomes Indra, and during that kalpa, when Vishnu becomes Brahma, then it can be said that they, Brahma and Indra, attain equality with Lord Vishnu. The gross body of Brahma, consisting of the total material substance, the aggregate of the universal form of material nature, extending from Patala up to Satyaloka, is also known as Brahma. So Brahma, the definition of Brahma has different definitions according to how you're using it. So you have to be real careful about how you use and describe what you're using in what context in relationship to Brahma. Hiranyagarbha, who is manifested within that gross body as subtle living entities, is also known as Brahma. The indwelling soul therein, the second Purus, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, is Ishvara, the supreme controller. He who is the destroyer by the action of the mode of ignorance is Lord Shiva. the indwelling Purusha within the universal form, as well as the subtle form of the Creator, Hiranyagarbha, who is the super excellent controller born of the lotus flower, has both been referred to as Brahma. This Brahma also accepts the form of Shiva for the purpose of destruction. During some kalpas, very pious jivas attain this position, whereas in others, Lord Vishnu himself accepts the position of Lord Shiva. Now, I've heard some devotees describe that when they say he becomes Shiva, he becomes a Rudra, because there's 11 Rudras? I think it's 11. But you see on the cover of the 5th canto, you can count them. Now, during some kalpas, very pious jivas attain the position, attain this position, whereas in others, Lord Vishnu himself accepts the position of Lord Shiva. However, the personality of Sadashiva is a plenary portion, Vilas Vigraha. So that Sadashiva is the form of Shiva that is the eternal form. That half is described in Brihad Bhagavatamritam. That half is in the spiritual world, half's in the material world. So that half that is in the spiritual world, that is where Sadashiva is, who's an incarnation of Krishna as of Vilas Vigraha. And all the other guna avatars Shiva, which he describes here, are expansions from that Sadashiva. Okay? It says, the same form of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, he is a transcendental to the 3 modes of material nature. It is from him, that's Sadashiva, that the guna avatar of Shiva is expanded. Therefore, he should be understood to be superior to Brahma, equal to Lord Vishnu, and entirely separate from jivas who are influenced by the material modes of nature. So here's where now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is going to describe the different kalpa avatars. That means they appear within this day of Lord Brahma. And that's why this day of Lord Brahma is the most auspicious, because the original Lord Krishna appears. Well, I'll just read them, so then you can see how auspicious it is. The 4 Kumaras, Narada, Varaha, like we're in the Varaha Kalpa now, Matsya, Yagya, Naranarayan, Kapila, Datta, or Hayagriva, Hamsa, Prishnigarba, Rishabdev, Prithu, Nrsimha, Kurma, Dhanvantari, Mohini Murti, Vamana, Parashuram, Raghunath, Vyas. That's the Vyas who's here now. He's the incarnation of Narayan. Balabhadra, Lord Balaram, Lord Krishna, Buddha, Kalki. There's Kalki, so it's mentioned. Kalki appears. And they appear once in every kalpa, therefore they're known as kalpa avatars. And thereafter are the manvantaras. So we heard about those. There's the Yagya, Vibhu, Satyasen, Hari, Vaikuntha, Ajit, Vamana, Sarvabhauma, Risabha, Vishvaksena, Dharmasetu, Sudam, Yogeshwar, and Brihad Bhanu. Then the Yuga avatars are as follows. Beginning with Satyuga, the color is white, Sweta. And in Treta Yuga, it's Rakta, red. And then Dwapara Yuga, it's bluish black. And then also in Kali Yuga, he's black. So in other words, besides this Kali Yuga, which Lord Chaitanya appears as the golden avatars, the other times he appears blackish. Among all these avatars, the Kalpa avatars, the Manvantara avatars, the Yuga avatars, some are Avesh, specifically empowered living entities. So there's the Prabhava. This is one reason why there's much detail. You have to become at least familiar with it, even though it's hard to remember it all. I can't memorize all this. This is why I'm reading it, because it's hard to remember all these different, but it's good to be familiar with them. There's the Prabhav, which is supreme, chief, main, or principal, mastership. There's the Vaibhava, which is divine power, opulence, Shiva-ship, Brahma-ship, manifest superior potencies, compared to Prabhav, and Paravasta, these incarnations manifest even superior Shakti than the other previous mentioned ones. The Avesha avatars are Chatusan, Narada, Pitṛ, etc. The Prabhav ones are Mohini, Dhanvantari, Hamsa, Risabhadev, Vyas, Datta, Sweta, etc. Vaibhava is Matsya, Kurma, Narayan, Varaha, Hayagriva, Krishnagarbha, Balabhadra, Yagya, and on and more. And Paravasta is Nrsimha, Rama, and Krishna. These are successively graded in terms of superior Shakti. So the topmost ones are Nrsimha, Rama, and Krishna. Those have the topmost Shakti. And of course, amongst these, Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God Himself. Svayam Bhagavan, no one is superior to Him. So Krishna has 4 abodes. In Braj, Madhupur, must be Mathura, I'm not sure, Madhupur or Mayapur, I don't know. Dwarka and Goloka. He is supremely perfect in Vraj, where he resides along with his family in Baladev. In Mathura, he is supremely perfect. And in Dwarka, accompanied by his family members, Pradyumna Adiruddha, he is perfect. So that's the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's categorized like that very wonderfully. And okay, so also there's a few other, also in Brihad Bhagavatamritam, it's described by Sanatana Goswami that the residents there see the Brahmas just coming and going like this, like one Brahma after another. So imagine that Brahma lives 311 trillion years, 311 trillion, 40 billion years, and they're seeing them go like this, one after another. So just imagine that the time element is so incomprehensible to our mundane brain. Even Prabhupada wrote a letter, he wrote one letter, where he was talking about how Arjuna and Kunti are eternally in the material world, and they expand themselves into each universe. So he said, a jiva can do this who's liberated, but for the conditioned soul, this is very hard to understand, how you can expand unlimitedly like that. Of course, the Lord also gives them that potency to be able to do that. Now, it's tricky because Arjuna also, his form is coming as Ramananda Roy. So therefore, he's got another flavor with the Lord. Just like you'll see sometimes the picture, you see these posters, and they have one side, they have the Ras Leela, and then on the other side, Madhurya Leela, on the other side, they have Chaitanya Leela. And so a devotee can be in both realms. He can actually have Rasa with Krishna in both realms. This is why Lord Chaitanya is called the most magnificent avatar, because he's giving what no one else had actually given before. And also, let me see, so there's also, 9.3 and 9.10 in Gita. So Prabhupada's Gita here, 9.3 and 9.10. He's mentioning here how Maya dakshena prakriti suate sa charachanam hetunanena konteya jagaviparivartate. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kuti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So that's that secular how it's going, how the whole manifestations and annihilations are constantly in a cyclical path like this, eternally. Purport. It is clearly stated here that the Supreme Lord, although aloof from all activities of the material world, remains the Supreme Director. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme Will and the background of this material manifestation, but the management is being conducted by material nature. Krishna also states in Bhagavad Gita that of all the living entities in different forms and species, I am the Father. Aham bija pada pita. He's saying that he is the Father. The Father gives seeds to the womb of the mother of the child, And similarly, the Supreme Lord, by his mere glance, out in their different forms and they come out in their different forms and species according to their last desires and activities. All these living beings, although born under the glance of the Supreme Lord, take their different bodies according to their past deeds and desires. So the Lord is not directly attached to this material creation. He simply glances over the material nature, and material nature is thus activated, and everything is created. Also, Prabhupada mentions here in one lecture that was given in January 9th, 1975 in Bombay, he talks about how everything comes from sound. So Prabhupada says here, this is in the lecture, so this creation, the beginning of creation is the sound. The modern physicists, they also agree. Sound and light, according to their theory, but the sound is the origin of creation mixed with these modes of ignorance. Everything here in this material world is spiritual reflection covered by the material elements. So when the sound is purified, or you catch up the spiritual sound, then your spiritual life begins. Just like Lord Brahma heard the sound, tapa, and then he started doing meditation. And Burijan one time in class, Prabhupada said, so it is said that Lord Brahma, he received Gayatri. What Gayatri is that? And nobody could answer. And then Burijan goes, oh, it's the Kama Gayatri, Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, yes, now recite it. Of course. Then he goes, Om Bhur Bhuva. Prabhupada said, oh. Because it's not the right one. It's the Kama Gayatri. And that Kama Gayatri is mentioned in the Brahma Samhita. That's why the Brahma Samhita is so important to read that. Lord Chaitanya gave us that 5th chapter of the Brahma Samhita, which isn't manifest anymore. But the 5th chapter is, and that has all explanations are given therein. That's why it's so important. It's very nice. In Alachua, every morning they'll sing 4 or 5 verses of the Brahma Samhita, because that's something that's very important for the devotees to learn and to become very familiar with. So, mentioning here also, back to this lecture in Bombay, Prabhupada says this Panchabhuta, the 5 gross elements, it is coming from subtle elements. From the subtle elements, the gross elements gradually develop. And then Prabhupada also mentions here that so our material position and spiritual position, the ultimate point is sound. And this sound is presented in its original spiritual form. That is called Veda, Shabda Brahma. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikaviye. This Brahma means Shabda Brahma. The Shabda Brahma was imparted, Hare Krishna, or vibrated by Krishna in the heart of Brahma. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikaviye. Then he could realize what is his position. Then after hearing the sound, he compiled the Brahma Samhita. Okay, because sometimes devotees have said, well, wait a minute, when did he actually mention the Brahma Samhita? When was it uttered by Lord Brahma? And it says here that Prabhupada mentions here, in the beginning, after he was, this was revealed to him by Krishna, then he said, had Brahma Samhita. That Brahma Samhita we have recited many times. The Brahma, Lord Brahma, by personal realization through the mercy of Krishna, on account of this sound, transcendental, being injected within the heart, he could see the whole spiritual world as it is. And that is ascribed in the Brahma Samhita. Chintamani prakara sadmasu kalpaḥ. So, and then it's going on. A lot of details are given. And so here I'll read again the verse, 2 verses of the day, number 37 and 38. The descendant of Bharata, the first millennium and the second half of the life of Brahma, is also known as the Varaha millennium, because the personality of Godhead appeared in that millennium as the hog incarnation. So there's 2. There's the white Varaha, then also it's described as a black Varaha. That's mentioned. I know, I always thought it was red. Maybe in another kalpa. Who knows? But in that's mentioned in Lago Bhagavatamritam by Gopi Paranidhana. He mentions how the 2 colors were white and black. I always thought it was white and red. But anyway, maybe another kalpa bit. So Lord Varaha appeared, so that's why we call it the Sweta Varaha Kalpa. And (37) and 38, the duration of the two parts of Brahma's life, as above mentioned, is calculated to be equal to 1 nimesha, less than a second, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is unchanging and unlimited, and is the cause of the causes of the universe. Purport. So, yeah, I also have to read this purport. The great sage Maitreya has given a considerable description of the time of different dimensions, beginning from the atom up to the duration of the life of Brahma. Now he attempts to give some idea of the time of the unlimited personality of Godhead. He just gives a hint of his unlimited time by the standard of the life of Brahma. The entire duration of the life of Brahma is calculated to be less than a second of the Lord's time. And it is explained in the Brahma Samhita as follows. It's actually mentioned that in Brahma Vaivarta Purāṇa, that when the Lord winks, one life of Brahma passes. Simply by the winking of his eye is one life of Brahma, the duration. Yashaika nishvasita kalavalamya jivanti loma vilaja jagananda napta vishnor mahansaya yasya kalavasesho govindamari purisham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, whose plenary portion is Mahavishnu. All the heads of the innumerable universes, the Brahmas, live only by taking shelter of the time occupied by one of his breaths. The impersonalists do not believe in the form of the Lord, and thus they would hardly believe in the Lord sleeping. Their idea is obtained by a poor fund of knowledge. They calculate everything in terms of man's capacity. They think that the existence of the Supreme is just the opposite of active human existence. Because the human being has senses, the Supreme must be without sense perception. Because the human being has a form, the Supreme must be formless. And because the human being sleeps, the Supreme Lord must not sleep. Srimad Bhagavatam, however, does not agree with such impersonalists. It is clearly stated herein that the Supreme Lord rests in Yoga Nidra, as previously discussed. And because he sleeps naturally, he must breathe. And the Brahma Samhita confirms that within his breathing, innumerable Brahmas take birth and die. There is a complete agreement between Bhagavatam and the Brahma Samhita. Eternal time is never lost along with the life of Brahma. It continues, but it has no ability to control the Supreme Personality of Godhead because the Lord is the controller of time. And in the spiritual world, there is undoubtedly time, but it has no control over activities. Time is unlimited, and the spiritual world is also unlimited since everything there exists on the absolute plane. So Lord Krishna also mentions in Bhagavad Gita, he says, time I am the destroyer of the world, and I've come to engage all men. So Krishna is also that time. So if we don't bow down to the Lord in this lifetime, then we'll have to do the dandavats when we die. Because the thing is, either way, the Lord's giving you the option. Surrender according to your sweet will, or do it according to my will. So either one. You have to do your obeisances before you pass. Jai Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki. Any questions? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. There you go.
Prabhu, maybe I misunderstood, but is Vyasadeva a Shaktivesh avatar?
It said he was let me see. What did he call it? It says that he is, well, Kalpa avatar, but it also mentions, let me see, Avesh. Well, it only mentions 3. But he's Shaktivesh, but at the same time, he's an incarnation of Vishnu.
That's what I was trying to understand.
Yeah. So, but because he only comes in this, because, okay. Thanks for mentioning that. Because in Vishnu Purana, there's a whole list of the personalities who are going to take the post. It's a post. Like Brahma is a post. Being a Vyas is a post. It's mentioned in Vishnu Purana. Tells exactly where it is. I have it. And it's mentioned that they're one after the other. So guess who the next one is? Not going to believe it. Ashvatthama! He's the next one mentioned. Now, because Veda Vyas, he's called Dvaipayana Vyas, this specific one, he's an incarnation of Vishnu. Okay, so at the same time you can say, yeah, but he's a Vaish, but at the same time he's empowered, but at the same time he's, it's both. It's both combined. So the thing is that he's special. He's not just like one of the list. He comes once in a day of Brahma. The other ones are just cyclical. They go around like that. And they cover so many different... So every Dwarpa Yuga, there's a Vyas. And he brings the Vedas back out. And the Purāṇas. And the Itihas, everything. He brings it all back out again. It's a lot of stuff to wrap your head around. Now, if you go outside in the hallway out here, the lights aren't working, I don't know why. But out in the hallway here, as soon as you go through that door, they have that chart, which Maheshwara very kindly has compiled. And there you have a lot of the different information about who's who and how the division of time, the Divya Yugas, and all the different kalpas, and kalpa avatars and manvantars, and all the way down the line. It's hard to grasp. That's why it's nice to have a ready reckoner chart like that, so you can see. Now he has many charts like that, so you can look at them, the different, all the different religions and everything, and he breaks it down very nice. And then people like that a lot, because then they can see it's a ready reckoner, because our minds in Kali Yuga are so dull. Manda sumanda mateo manda bhaga upaduta. Then, learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men have but short lives. They're lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. So the thing is that's the nature. People can't concentrate in this age. So it's always good that's why Prabhupada has very kindly made these books available so that we can read them and distribute the mercy. It's one thing if you have the mercy, but then you can distribute the mercy. And that's why Prabhupada was saying how the book distributors are extremely important. And it's extremely important for them to get this knowledge out there. Everything else also has to go on, especially if you have deities like we have in Berkeley. Prabhupada said, I do not want that after I leave that this becomes a burden on your neck, this deity worship. So both have to go on. And it's a lot of endeavor and it takes a lot of care as well. But book distribution is extremely important to get this knowledge out, because a person might read one page. And it can change their whole life. Hare Krishna. Any other? So, let's take prasad. Hare Krishna. And thank you, Maharaj. Always good to see you. Hare Krishna. We'll miss you until you reappear. Sorry. And that's a wonderful Vyasa sign. My goodness. That's a knockout Vyasa sign. That is just really, whoever, had the vision, it's really sweet. No credit. Haribo. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Namam Shnubadaya Krishna Mastaya Bhutale. Chimante Bhakti Vanasa. Say Susunyavani Basatadi Shatani. Jai, thank you. Oh, here.